Hey guys, it's Blue from Throwback Games, and this is going to be my brand new tip series called Zero to Hero. What I'm going to be doing is starting from the most basic of tips, and as the episodes go on, it'll get more and more advanced. So in this episode, I'm going to be starting with game settings. So pretty much everything you need to know if you're just starting out, and you need to set your settings up for the most optimal, frame rate and all that kind of jazz. So I'm going to go into options and start with video settings. So in terms of display mode, doesn't really matter. Aspect ratio, it can either be 16 by 9 or 4 by 3. It doesn't really matter. 16 by 9 will be higher quality. There's really no advantage to 4 by 3, but a lot of the pros use it because I think that's what they're used to from playing 1.6 and that. In terms of video options, global shadow quality should be low. All this should pretty much be low, especially for higher FPS. You really want to get the most FPS out of your game. Texture detail, I guess you can see less on your screen if it's very low, but it really doesn't make a difference in terms of visibility. But yeah, everything should be low here, in my opinion. Especially shader detail, that kind of thing. It'll really affect your game if you have it on high because you'll see shadows and it'll actually decrease your vision. Multi-core rendering, you can enable this. It increases frame rate, but it crashes my game sometimes. So if your game's crashing, keep it disabled. I have it disabled. Anyways, all this, don't really need to explain it, but pretty much set your settings up like that. Alright, from here we're going to move on to game settings, which is right here. If you go to options, and in terms of instructor messages, you don't really want those on. They're not that helpful unless you're really just starting out and you have no idea what you're doing. But they can be kind of obtrusive, especially when you're trying to play and things are popping up on your screen. This is all fine. Definitely enable the developer console. We'll go into that a little bit more later. Hot options, this is just personal preference really. And we'll go down to item options. You're going to want to switch weapon on pickup to no. That way if you walk over a weapon and for example you don't have a primary rifle on you and you pick one up, it won't automatically switch to that. If you have that on, it could kind of screw you over because if it automatically switches to it in the middle of a gunfight, you're going to be trying to use that weapon and you'll pretty much be dead. So definitely set that to no. This is more just personal preference. This is what I'm used to in terms of buying. Radar map zoom should be all the way over here. That way you can see the whole map on the radar, not just, very close to where you're standing. So I just zoom that all the way out. I think it's a lot better. So that's pretty much it for game settings. Let's move on to the console. Alright, so if you hit tilde pretty much anywhere in game, this will be brought up, and there's all this. I don't know what this is, but that probably won't show up. Anyways, from here you can check or change your sensitivity to what you want. Basically, that's just personal preference. There is no real set sensitivity that you want. It'll also depend on your DPI, which will affect it, and a lot of mouses have adjustable DPI, and if you do have a mouse that does that, you want it to be pretty much as low as possible because that way there's less mistakes that the mouse makes. If you have it on a 3000 DPI, it'll skip a lot and stuff like that. So I just have my DPI at I think 600 or 400 and my sensitivity at 1.4. That's pretty low, but that's what I've just gotten used to. So yeah, but anyways, after sensitivity you want to set your crosshair, but before you do all this you should go online and download a Pro Players config. You can do that by googling it, like Pro Player CSGO configs. I'll link a website in the description as well. But all you're going to want to do with that file, it'll be like a text file, you put it into your CFG file, which is in your CSGO folder. So if you go to Steam Apps, and then Counter-Strike Global Offensive, and then there's a CSGO folder, in that will be the CFG folder, and you just pop it into that. And then if you go into the game, you just type in exec, and then whatever the config is called, it's usually called config or auto exec, and that'll change all your settings to that config. It'll probably change your crosshair and sensitivity as well. That's why I say to do this before you set up your crosshair. So this will change a lot of your settings, and it should improve your FPS because a lot of pro players have the most optimal settings, of course. So that's why I think it's much easier to just download a Pro Player's config and throw it in your CFG folder. You can also set your launch options to exec the config every time you open up the game. You can do that by going to the library, right-clicking on Counter-Strike Global Offensive, going down to Properties, and then hitting the Set Launch Options button, and you just type this in, or of course whatever the config is called. So you'll want to do that because then it'll exec it every time. And if you're going to change your sensitivity or crosshair, you're going to want to directly edit it on that config file that you downloaded, which is pretty easy. All you have to do is go into the CFG folder, open up that config file in Notepad, and just edit directly from there. Very simple process, but if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. But that's going to do it for this episode. Hopefully this helps you guys out a bit, gets your settings where they should be to actually start getting pretty good at the game. So on the next episode, I'll be going over warm-ups, which is very important if you want to get good. So that's going to do it for this video. I apologize about that Skype beep. But anyways, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.